Good morning, everyone. I'm Guy from the Congregation's Board of Directors. Let's begin with some quick announcements. Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Guy et je fais partie du conseil d'administration de la Congrégation. Commençons par quelques annonces rapides. Reverend George Buchanan, who spoke here 2 weeks ago on the topic of active hope, will lead a related workshop called A Process for Moving from Despair to Inspired Activism, the spiral of the work that reconnects. It'll take place here at FirstU on Saturday, February the 8th from 9:30 a.m. until noon. Advance registration is required. You can pick up a flyer with more information at the table at the back of Worship Hall. Jane is standing right in front of it, as is Andrew. And there will be more information published in our electronic newsletter, the EUU. Last Sunday we shared, whoa, it got really loud all of a sudden. Last Sunday we shared news that the UU Hysterical Society, the Facebook group with over 280,000 members, was in dire financial straits and wouldn't survive past February. Most members don't realize that the UUHS has modest expenses for technical support and for paid moderators, and they are even more important now with the recent changes to Facebook's content moderation policy. A call went out to the group, and they're very excited. And within 24 hours, they had an enthusiastic response which will cover costs for the next while. If you would like to provide financial support, you can make a contribution at uuhystericalsociety, all one long word, .com. And if you'd like more information about the UUHS, please speak with Chuck Shields, and I saw Chuck, there's Chuck right back there, or other UUHS members. If there are other members, please wave your hands, and there we go, after the service. Are you interested in exploring how to more fully live our UU values? If you're interested in connecting more deeply with others, if so, we encourage you to join the Journey group that will be starting on Thursday, February the 6th at 1 p.m. You can register at Adult Learning, again, all one word, at firstunitarianottawa.ca, or by speaking to Paula Teague. Is Paula here today? I'm not seeing an arm wave, but you can speak to Paula Teague or Chris Dushinsky. The deadline for registration is January the 24th, which happens to be this coming Friday. And finally, we are very happy that Landry and Elvis, who come from Burundi, are here with us this morning. Nous sommes très heureux que Landry et Elvis, qui viennent du Burundi, soient ici avec nous ce matin. They were met at the airport on Monday with warm clothes, and a huge thank you to all of those who made donations. Ils ont été accueillis lundi à l'aéroport avec des vêtements chauds. Un gros merci à tous ceux qui ont fait des dons. We'll be hosting a special welcome potluck for them on Saturday, February the 8th. If you're prepared to help organize the event, please speak with Eva or Brent. There we go, I see Brent. And there's Eva right there. We are the world, yes. Nous organiserons un repas partage de bienvenue spécial pour eux le samedi 8 février. Si vous êtes prêts à aider à organiser l'événement, veuillez en parler à Brent ou Eva. The refugee team is also compiling a list of people who can help drive Landry and Elvis to appointments from their temporary accommodations in Finley Creek and the Conroy Hunt Club area, basically Ottawa South. Some French is obviously an asset. L'équipe des réfugiés est également en train de dresser une liste de personnes qui peuvent aider à conduire Landry et Elvis à leur rendez-vous depuis leur hébergement temporaire à Finley Creek et dans les régions de Conroy Hunt Club. Un peu de français est un atout. If you understood that last announcement, you are in the catchment area. And that's everything. Thanks.
Good morning. Oh, loud. It's loud today. We're going to begin with an opening song, Be Open by Debbie Nargi-Brown, probably our last week with this one. So I welcome you to join in on some harmony and have some fun with it. There we go. All right. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibilities. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibilities. Aye, 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 for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibilities. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibilities. Aye, 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 Thank you.
Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome everyone to the First Unitarian congregation of Ottawa, whether you are here in Worship Hall or watching from wherever you may be. Know that you are welcome. I hope you feel the arms of care extended to you. As Guy already did, we have some very special guests with us today, and we'll be introducing them more fully in a few minutes. I'm the Reverend Eric Meter, this congregation's lead minister.
And I'm Lisa, your worship associate this morning. Let us begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabeg territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of this congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all those who have the willingness to understand, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Let's join our voices in song once more. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together Morning Has Come, hymn 1000 in the Teal hymnal. And the lyrics will be up on the screen above.
Sing a song of
Thank you, Fusion Choir. So wonderful to hear all these voices singing in unison. Our centering words. As health challenges continue to take care and take advantage of online opportunities, at FirstU to stay in touch. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. And if you're right here in a worship hall with us this morning and would like more information about FirstU, it is available at the welcome table at the back of the pews, and Jane is there to greet you today. We encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter. Sign-up information is available on our website under the EUU Weekly Newsletter tab, and you can access it on the EUU on the website or by using the QR code on the back of our printed programs. Check Facebook and Instagram pages and our website for notices and updates. Our calendar continues to be as full as ever, though some of our activities take place online. This morning, each of us is welcome. We, of any heritage or faith, whatever our burdens, of any culture or race, of any gender or orientation, in any body, all that we are. Today, we are all part of this spiritual community. Ce matin, chacun de nous est bienvenu. Nous, de toute origine ou foi, quels que soient nos fardeaux, de toute culture ou race, de tout sexe ou orientation, dans n'importe quel corps, tout ce que nous sommes. Aujourd'hui, nous faisons toute partie de cette communauté spirituelle.
Merci beaucoup, Lisa. To begin this morning's reflection on the ways to live best in this wide, wonderful world, we light our chalice this morning to these words of welcome. From far afield, perhaps, nowhere near Africa or Burundi, but from our sibling Unitarian congregation in Dublin, Ireland. They write, they say, we bid you welcome. We do not ask what you believe or expect you to think the way we do, but only that you try to live a kindly, helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions, and all who might find in our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. Thank you, Reverend Mubitsa. Our chalice is lit. Come, let us worship together as we begin by singing our chalice song.
Chalice, chalice, burning bright, help remind us with your light of all we'd like to live each day, with love and truth helping lead the way.
Well, health challenges do continue. There is illness among our childcare and religious exploration staff. So I'm subbing for Jody in telling a story to you, and Susan is going to help. Let's see here as I get set up. And any of the young at heart or folks who would like to feel or are feeling today like they're young at heart are welcome to come forward. That's it. Come on in. Get settled in. Get settled in. Today I have a story for you called All Our Neighbors by Alexandra Penfold. This book celebrates the diversity and unity of a community where everyone is welcome, no matter where they come from or what they look like. As we read this story, I invite you to imagine that this community is not just a neighborhood in a city, but the entire world, which is a pretty big place. Picture people of every corner of the globe coming together, sharing their cultures, traditions, and kindness with each other. In our global community, we are all neighbors. Whether we live next door or on the other side of the world, we are all connected by our shared humanity. We all have hopes, dreams, and the desire to belong. I love your snow day sweater. I saw it before and I said to Kasha, I want one. The story reminds us that no matter our differences, we can create a world where everyone feels at home and is treated with love and respect. So let's open our hearts and minds as we dive into All Our Neighbors and celebrate the beauty of our diverse, interconnected world. Susan, are we ready? What is a community? It's a place for you and for me. Come along and you'll see we are all neighbors here. We may start our days in different ways. Some go to work and others stay. We're here for each other, come what may. We are all neighbors here. Let's go walking down our street. Friends and neighbors here to meet. Oh, so many folks to meet. We are all neighbors here. What is a community? It's a place for you and for me. Come along and you'll see we are all neighbors here. A friendly smile, a familiar face, helping hands just in case, taking care of our shared space. We are all neighbors here. We can help each other along, building bonds that are strong, so everyone knows that they belong. We are all neighbors here. What is a community? It's a place for you and for me. Come along and you'll see we are all neighbors here. The sound of music in the street, the scent of goodies ready to eat, feeling at home and complete. We are all neighbors here. This is our community. We celebrate diversity. There is a place for everyone. Big page flap. Uh-oh, this is the tricky part. I think we've got it. I think we've got it. We are all neighbors here. And let us sing our young ones on their way. Remember that we do this by making an art. We are not Sieg Heiling anything. We are making an arch of love for our young ones to go on to the rest of their important and vital days. Jen?
Beneath our arms we shelter you. You warm our hearts as you pass through. May our love guide you as you go to help you learn and help you grow.
Each week we pause in our time together in recognition of the joys and sorrows in our lives and across the globe. We honor our celebrations and challenges by placing stones in small bowls of water. As the ripples extend outward, we imagine them continuing out beyond these small bowls, out through and past our pews, out into the larger community of all. Our first stone is for the trembling hope we may share that the ceasefire in Gaza does its work and lasts. Closer to home, a stone of celebration as Eleanor has turned 90 years old. And if you were here early, you may have heard a verse of Happy Birthday sung to Jen. Her birthday was Friday. Sorry, outed you. And a stone for Betty C., who was taken to emergency at Queensway Hospital. She had serious symptoms of flu that required immediate treatment. And a stone for Nancy's father-in-law, Martin DeFalco, who died a week ago Friday. He had lived a good long life, and that there will be a memorial for him, though not here, on next Sunday, January 26th. Martin was also Julia's grandfather, so there's a card for their family. Against this background, we live our lives. Please come forward now to honor your joys and sorrows by placing a stone or stones in these bowls of water. That last stone, as always, represents all that remains in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. Carrying cards for Betty C., Nancy's family, and Eleanor are at the back of the hall at the welcome table for us to sign. Even if you don't yet know these folks, this is a way to extend our care on behalf of those who have given so much to this community of faith. Let us move now into a time of stillness and reflection. After several moments, we'll come back together through the gift of music.
A centering prayer this morning by Rebecca C. Coppola. Spirit of life, we know there are as many perspectives and experiences of living as there are people. Spirit of love, please guide us gently into appreciating and listening. Assist us to honor in that conversation. We can see the gifts. Let me start again. Assist us to honor that in conversation we can see the gift of a collective. Show us how we can find understanding by learning to speak one another's languages, so that we may, hand in hand, go deeper into our beliefs through a personal, communal, and perpetual evolution. Breath of life, give us the patience to live into this faith of community, the curiosity to ask loving questions of each other, and allow us to be always deepening our spiritual awareness of the worlds within and without. Inspiration that is this life, please feel our profound gratitude for the comings and goings, beginnings and endings, through which we have been granted the opportunity to reflect with openness both upon what is within our experience and that which is outside it.
Although he has been a guest in this hall and this pulpit several times, I'd like to briefly introduce Reverend Mubitsa. You may know him as Reverend Fulgence. He has taken a new name that is more fitting. And he is the director of, Flaming Chalice International, which has been instrumental in bringing our two special guests with us today. Mubitsa.
Flaming Chalice International was born in prison when my life was hanging in the balance, and the UU global community, including many from this congregation, showed up with love, courage, and sacrifice to put pressure on our government to obtain my release. When the world learned of my ordeal, the UU global world I mean, spontaneous, initially uncoordinated efforts emerged. A Unitarian minister from the Philippines started a petition. The International Council of Unitarian and Universalists provided daily updates. A young boy in Saskatoon started a website to gather resources on how people could help. Many individuals called our embassies abroad to ask why I was held and to push pressure to get me out. The movement was amazing. Every morning, a member of the congregation I was serving brought me the list of people who have signed the petition and updated me on all the efforts to get me out. By evening, when everyone had left, when I sat alone in that dark cell, I got wondering. What connected me to all those people who were fighting for me? Some I knew, many I did not. An image kept coming to my mind, a flaming chalice. A sign of commitment to what is right, and the willingness to pay the price, to sacrifice for others as an expression of love and the values we share. I recall the Reverend Charles Joy working with the Austrian artist Hans Deutsch during the devastation of the war in Europe to make a symbol of helpfulness and sacrifice. And when I got out, my mission was clarified: to be helpful for others, and when necessary, to put some sacrifice. This is where the name of Flaming Chalice International came from, to symbolize my work. When I got released and left the country, the initial mission was to work with the refugees from my former congregation who had fled for their lives after I had done before in East Africa, especially in Rwanda. To refugees, Flaming Chalice International became a lifeline, provided shelter, food, scholarships to get an education, and some to come to Canada if they are lucky enough to get sponsors. This morning, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Elvis and Landry. They can give you. Elvis and Landry have spent almost 10 years in Rwanda. Elvis was part of the congregation I was serving in Bujumbura, Burundi, and Landry became a friend of the Unitarians when in Kigali, Rwanda. 10 years is a long time. 10 years of living in limbo. 10 years of almost wasted youth years and energy, but also 10 years of refusing to give up. And that's what we really celebrate this morning. We celebrate that resilience of our friends, Elvis and Landry. We celebrate the new phase in their lives that they are embarking on. And more importantly, we celebrate the power of humanity. the sense of duty that led you to help someone you did not know. And I'm sure in their minds, there were the questions like, who are those people? What connects me to them? And this is where magic happens, fueled by our shared humanity and our deep and shared values. And this speaks to who you are as a community. The new phase involves a lot of work, a lot of support to begin a new life and eventually get established. And this community offers the necessary conditions for that to be relatively smooth. From their initial welcome at the airport to the other settlement details. I'm confident that the mighty refugee team and volunteers from this caring community will support them from where they are today to where they need to be. And the Burundian community living here in Ottawa and around Ottawa will also be part of that process. Fleming Church International will continue to work with congregations across Canada and here in Ottawa to sponsor other refugees who are still waiting in East Africa. And I express my gratitude for your willingness to take on this work. Over the years, Fleming Church International has worked on different projects, supporting women to get access to resources and some control over their lives, providing water to communities without access to water, to support youth in their efforts to get an income and stay in their communities. And most of that work is funded by Unitarian and Unitarian Universalists. But our first congregation has been one of the loyal partners that supported us over the years. Whether it's education projects, whether it's supporting refugees who are in need of starting a new life, we work on changing people's lives. And thank you for touching many lives, 2 at a time today. I want to close by paraphrasing the artist Hans Deutsch mentioned earlier when he was watching Unitarians at work to save people from persecutions during the war in Europe. He said something close to, "There is something that urges me to tell you how much I admire your utter readiness to serve, to use your resources to help, help, help." And I add, to create opportunities that give hope to people who may be experiencing hopeless situations. Thank you. Merci. Murakoze.
Thank you, Reverend Bobitsa. Hope, hope, hope. At the close of each worship on Sunday with you, I close by saying we have an opportunity to help, and may we do so with joy amid the challenge of helping the world come alive in love. I don't know where I got that phrase, but I came up with it at least 20 years ago now, to help the world come alive with love. And if there's anything that defines my understanding of my call in doing this work, it is that phrase. And as I mentioned a couple years ago in a Parkway Spire newsletter column, one of the romantic ways I have of describing that comes from a little passage from Goethe. Sounds esoteric, but the passage is great. The world is so empty if one thinks only of mountains, rivers, and cities, but to know someone who thinks and feels with us, who, though distant, is close to us in spirit, this makes the earth for us an inhabited garden. When the world is seen as small as it can be, when brothers, sisters, siblings from various parts of the world come together and recognize the spark of humanity that is shared between them, it's another manifestation of the magic of the world. Now, it doesn't always happen like that. There are wars, there are misunderstandings, there are points to be made. As my late colleague, Forrest Church, has said, that when one person meets another from a vastly different culture, they have three options: to convert, destroy, or ignore the other. Now that's taking a rather pessimistic view on the situation. I think we can rightly add, befriend, or at least respect the other. And this congregation, this faith community, has a long and strong, enviable, if not exemplary, track record of helping those whose homes were no longer viable or available to them start again in a nurturing environment, even in the Great White North. We have done so, you have done so with Sansumia from Bangladesh, and Sri Kamar Rai from Nepal, and with helping other refugees from Somalia, and now Landry and Elvis from Burundi. I think this community, I think you, I think we understand our rightful role as global citizens and of citizens of this nation and city. One of our members, he's here today, but I didn't talk to you beforehand, Peter, has co-written a book titled Running on Empty about Canada and the Indo-Chinese refugees from 1975 to 1980. It's quite a book. And towards the end, the authors state this: it is probably fair to say that before 1979, multiculturalism was a rather vague concept to most Canadians. The authors continue, though. However, for the tens of thousands of Canadians deciding to welcome these rather exotic strangers from Cambodia, from Vietnam, from Laos, into their communities, into their churches and synagogues, and ultimately their homes, multiculturalism ceased to be an idea and became a living reality. My wife and I found our place, our home, little duplex near Mooney's Bay. Anne had spent 4 years, maybe 30 years before, in Calgary, and the Canada represented then and there was not the Canada that she experienced here. There were more people who looked like her here now than there and then. This is a good thing. This is something, though, that will bring some friction. We have to learn to appreciate one another. And in that learning and appreciation over the last several months, I've come to a little different place, and I want to tell you a personal story now, but it's one that involves all of you. It involves this congregation. Many of you may have heard that when my wife and I moved to Ottawa in mid-July of 2021, if I've got the date right, we came through the border control at Lansdowne, not too far from Kingston. And we got there on a Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't leave the building until 5 that afternoon, where we got COVID tested again. We understood that clergy didn't need work permits. The letter from the Canadian Unitarian Council, written by its executive director, Vita Ng, mentions, and this was in part of we had a 3-ring biter this thick, mentions that under Canadian Immigration and Refugee Protection Regulations, SOR-2002-227-Division 3 1861, foreign nationals may work in Canada without a work permit as a person who is responsible for assisting a congregation or group in the achievement of its spiritual goals. It goes on. It mentions preach doctrine, which I don't think I do, but I do the rest. At least I try to do the rest. But the border agents in Lansdowne weren't having it. I watched them as they went online and looked up the statutes. I think that it was a CYA, cover your acronym rear end, sort of policy, that they said, no, we're not going to let this guy pass. So they sold me a work permit, which the congregation reimbursed me for, and sent us on our way. But it took some time. It took some time. There was a difference of opinion and understanding. Now, I want to say one other thing, that immigration practices, if not policies, have changed dramatically in the last generation or so. Colleagues of mine who came to serve in Canada 30 or more years ago said, what's all this? They were giving permanent residents paperwork and cards like lollipops at the border when I came through. That is no longer the case. On the work permit that I received in July 2021, there was a little line that said, to renew this, go to this website. So I did. Filled out the forms, checked one wrong box, and waited. I was told that while my application was in process, I had better not leave the country. And so I didn't file the paperwork until just a few weeks before the work permit was to extinguish, because I had business in the States before that. And so I waited. July, August, September, October. And on November 18th, I received a letter that said, through email, that my application was denied. And I went immediately, after taking a long walk, and emailed this congregation's human resource manager and board president, Chuck Shields, and said, I've got a problem. That was a Monday, 2 days before the monthly board meeting. At that board meeting, the board stepped up and said, it sounds like we may need an immigration attorney. We're going to authorize some funds towards that. People here who have worked in Immigration Canada said, you don't need a lawyer for a work permit. Well, we wanted to cover, our own tushes. And so we went about finding an attorney and found one who's working with the First Unitarian congregation in Toronto. And Michelle Jackson, our HR person, and I and others in the congregation put together another packet like this. pay stubs, tax records, certificate of ordination, CV, all kinds of stuff, letter of agreement, bylaws, charitable status documents, whole 9 yards. And I was encouraged to not drive across the border because the agents at land borders are actually more rigorous than ones at airports. So since April, my wife has lived and worked in Boston. So I flew to Boston overnight, flew back. And what had been a 7-hour experience turned out to be a 30-minute experience. And it was wonderful. I was no longer working here as, to borrow a phrase from south of our border, as an undocumented immigrant. I was working illegally. I shouldn't say that, we're online. I was volunteering my times for 3 weeks. In that time, I mentioned to some, I carried more nervous vulnerability than I ever had in any other point in my life, because I felt like I had no control. Besides putting the materials together, I really didn't. I had assumed that everything would be okay, and then my application was denied. Other colleagues up from the States who came 15, 20 years ago have had a smoother process than I have. This congregation has had other ministers who have served us, come from the nation to our south, country to our south, and they haven't had problems. The CUC is finding that over the last 5-7 years, that's not the same. That things are more difficult for us, and that somehow every person has a little different difficulty. This congregation never needed a work permit for its minister if they came from the States before. I didn't realize I was a first. I don't understand it. I will say this, that getting the work permit and having that piece of paper made getting onto OHIP an absolute snap. I'm grateful for that. But what I want to say is, in my experience these last few months pales, absolutely pales in comparison to what Maritza, Elvis, and Landry have gone through and are going through. This will take some time. Africa to Canada is a really big step. What is normal to us is not normal to them. It will take time. There will be fumbles and missteps along the way. There will also be moments of beautiful grace. This congregation's efforts to bring them here, to help them make a home here, is phenomenal. Let us never underestimate that. We can do this. As I learned with the board and with the staff, we can do anything when we set our minds to it and are careful about it and consistent. And we're going to help you make a home, each of you. And in turn, we will be changed by you, absolutely, for the better. Thank you for your presence among us. We have a journey ahead of us all. Thank you, my friends. May so it be.
Today we are welcoming Fusion Choir to perform the anthem, which will be The Road Home by American composer Stephen Paulus. Before we begin this beautiful piece, I want to draw your attention to the lyrics in the third verse, which also features a solo by Deirdre Garcia. Rise up, follow me, come away is the call. With love in your heart as the only song, there is no such beauty as where you belong. Rise up, follow me, I will lead you home.
Wow, that was amazing. Will the ushers please start passing the baskets at this time? Thank you. This congregation has a long history of care, vitality, and bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We have been able to live into our hopes and dreams because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or anywhere else, you are a part of this community. We rely on one another to keep this congregation vital and resilient. If you have any questions about how you can give, please go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how to make a donation or to keep up with your pledge. Also, those in Worship Hall can use the QR code on the back of the order of service to make an online donation. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now let us sing together once more. Please rise in body or spirit as Jen leads us in singing This Is My Song, hymn number 159 in the gray hymnal, and the words will be up on the screen.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating, with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
Please be seated. Before we begin to close this time of worship and reflection, a reminder that food and household goods from our grocery support program are available to anyone who would like some in the room adjacent to Fellowship Hall. A reminder that the grow towers there have been taken down for the season. Our after-service discussion in the lounge will resume next week. And once again, Mia's Indian Cuisine will be offering lunch for sale after the service in Fellowship Hall. Oh, gotta find my prop. If you are new here, still feel new, or simply find yourself really welcoming a good, hearty conversation today, pick up a green mug as you enter Fellowship Hall. Doing so will help others also looking for a really good conversation to find you. And if you see someone sporting one of these, go up and ask them what brought them here this morning and be ready to start another fine conversation. Now, as we prepare to extinguish our chalice this morning, let these words by Laurel S. Sheridan guide us forward. Take from life its coals, not its ashes. Fan the flames of love and justice. Join hands and hearts in common endeavor, and there will be no limit to what we can achieve together. Our chalice is extinguished, but the spark of our faith and love remain in each of us. Jen, will you please bless us again by leading us in our closing song, Spirit of Life, which we'll find as 123 in the gray hymnal. We'll sing it through first in English and then en français. Please rise once more in body or spirit.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the land, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of love, come to me, come to me. Source de vie, jaillis en moi. Insuffle dans mon cœur des élans de compassion. Chante dans le vent, danse avec la mer, anime la mer qui façonne la justice. Terre unit-moi, ciel emporte-moi, source de vie,
As I said before, I will say again, as now we return to the joy and sometimes the challenge of helping the world come alive in love, let us go forward with justice in our steps, love in our hearts, and help in our hands, making the world a smaller, beautiful place for everyone. Go in peace, my friends. Go in peace.